everyone, Richard here, joined today by Christina and Sam from Moodbeam. If you are not familiar with Moodbeam, I absolutely love it. I've got my Moodbeam on here. I'm a big advocate for mental health across the board, especially within the entrepreneur community, the IT community. A lot of people suffering with a lot of stress, suffering with mental health challenges. I myself have been in amongst that. So Moodbeam was a piece of technology, is a smart wristband, and it helps you keep track of your mood. It also helps you be much more mindful of your mood. There are loads of use cases for it, but rather than me talk at length about it, Christina, lovely to see you again. How would you describe what Moodbeam is to anybody who's not come across it before?
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, Moodbeam is the ability to log in a moment how you're feeling, and then that gets stored and timestamped in the wearable device, and then you get a chance to look back on it and see what was happening at a time of day and really have that self-awareness built up, whether you're using it for personal use or within the professional environment.
Yeah, and as I said, it absolutely makes you much more mindful because you can set the reminders. You can see there's a couple of buttons on there, and mine, you can set this up depending on how you want it, but mine's set for blue, not okay, yellow, okay. And it just it reminds me during the day, am I feeling okay? Am I not feeling okay? And why? And helps to find a little bit of correlation. That's certainly how I use it, Christina. But Moodbeam is used by lots of people across lots of different industries and backgrounds. How do you find Moodbeam is being used, and by whom?
Okay, so obviously we've been at in Moodbeam, living and breathing, if you like, for nearly 6 years now, would you believe?
Wow.
Obviously, Moodbeam was created originally as a conversation starter, really to acknowledge, obviously, how you feel in the moment, but then get those conversations started that have perhaps been historically quite tricky. And for those whose job it is to sort of see if you're okay. It's equally been very difficult, and it's really, that's what it's all about. It's being able to capture a snapshot of somebody's day, how they've been feeling. And I think, obviously, as we're all aware, we've been through really, really tough 18 months. And what started off as a consumer product to be used within sort of, personal use cases has really become, I guess, a foundational health product in the respect that organizations turned around to us at the start of the pandemic and said, look, we really don't know how our people and teams are feeling right now, and we'd love to help. And obviously the culture is really, really important. If you're an organization that really does care about your people, probably has a whole suite already of things to help them through their working day. But this is really all about beginning with the person and ending with the person so that they can really be gifted with self-awareness. And mental health, obviously, is massive, and the understanding behind it has really moved on leaps and bounds because of what we've all had to deal with. But I think fundamentally it's very personal, and how something makes you feel is very personal to you. So to then be able to sort of log that, and then, a manager in this case, be able to see, how one department is compared to another, how, a person is compared to another, and really get that conversation started. What we have developed really for organizations is an employee voice. So something that really comes from the person, and is then used to sort of, make changes when they're needed, not sort of 6 months later when unfortunately they've perhaps left or struggled. And really, it's all about building a new dynamic normal for organizations, but most importantly, their people, because without their people, you don't have one. And I think, our biggest sort of pride moments really are the fact that those conversations have been started by using our technology. And because it's not now just the wearable that you wear on your wrist, we've listened and we've learned, and we now have a lanyard pod version, because we know that not everybody has access to the wrist during their working day. And it's also a very personal thing. Whereas the minute you make it something that's workwear, people respect it as that use, so that it is something that's more about workplace health. How does something make me feel? It doesn't have to be mental health. It doesn't have to be company health, but really, ultimately, it's how something makes you feel. Somebody might have banged into the back of your car on the way to work, or, you've got a lot of pressures at home. how do you explore that with a manager who can't pick up the phone to 500 people every day and go, how's things going? So it's really that linchpin, I guess, that missing metric. It's now the measure of happiness, and we now have a direct app entry solution as well for those organizations who want to offer it to their people to use it how they want to use it, not be dictated and mandated, you must wear it in such a way. So it's really all about choice, I think, and that's the direction we're headed.
Amazing, and amazing to see the progress you made, especially about the lanyard. I know it's only a small thing, but my sister works in as a nurse in a hospital, so she's not allowed to wear things on her wrist, so it just makes it easier from there. So I mentioned earlier on, I'm a big advocate for mental health. It's something I've, had challenges with throughout my life. But you also know, Christina, that I'm a massive technology geek as well. So you told me a few weeks ago, you got big news coming up for just how we can interpret and look at the Moodbeam data, which is why Sam's joining us today. So and for everybody watching at home here, I put Christina and Sam, on the spot. We jumped on a Zoom call and they were going to give me a little demo. And I said, well, rather than give me a demo, why don't we just record it and share it with everybody to have a look at it? So this is the first time that I'm seeing this, but perhaps, Sam, if I turn to you, Christina's explained what Moodbeam is. We know how important it is, especially as a result of the pandemic. What is new in the Moodbeam world in terms of looking at the data that Moodbeam captures?
Yeah, so I'll just go back to Christina mentioning our new kind of lanyard accessory piece, the pod, as we refer to it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which can be seen there.
Very cool.
So again, hang on a lanyard with keys, ID badge, key fob, whatever. Makes it more of a workwear tool.
Yes.
Rather than something being worn on a wrist, it's quite a personal item. And again, as Christina mentioned, the app, which now allows for direct entry. So we can see our buttons that are placed on the app as well.
Very cool. Well, I've not actually seen that on mine. So again, when I said we're doing this live, so I don't. When did that update go out to? And which platforms has it gone out to?
Hasn't yet gone live. That
hasn't yet gone live. That'd be why I've not seen it.
Still in our testing environment, and that will soon be pushed live for people to be using in terms of the businesses and allowing them for direct entry.
Got it. Fabulous.
Then, as we referenced, in terms of reviewing the data, and we've been working hard on creating a fully functional dashboard for business to use, so they can easily see and analyze data.
Yeah, let's have a look at it.
So I'll just move down there. So yeah, this is our dashboard, and gives you a bit of an overview of exactly how your organization is doing as a whole. And we work on a mood score, which is a proportion of good days as a total of good days and bad days. And a good day is simply determined by more yellow presses than blue.
Got it.
And we can see a slight comparison of how your mood score has changed month on month. And we can also tell data in terms of presses. So this is physical yellow presses and physical blue presses. Some insights here into the data. So we can see that 21% of our organization's bad days are made up of only 5% of the team.
That's very, very interesting to me, because I know from mental health work that I've done with small organizations, and that sometimes it can be some individuals within the team are just really struggling and you're not aware of it, whereas the majority are just like, yeah, we're okay. And often the majority gets taken as, okay, everybody's okay. And that's not always the case, is it? So
it's not, no, not at all. And I suppose that moves nicely onto this quick list here. So we can start to see any location, any team, and then any individual,
right,
who has a mood score of less than 50, so he has more blue presses than yellow, or a mood score less than the previous month. So it's highlighting anybody that's more negative than the previous month or has actually a low score this month.
Got it.
We can hit explore. And again, this is where we start to dive down slightly deeper into the information. And we're looking at mood score here. So this is good day versus bad day. But we could toggle it across to look at terms of presses. And looking at locations. And we can rank any of these locations based on their mood score. So we can see that Bristol has the highest mood score. But the change on the previous time period, Bristol has the most change. So Bristol has had a change of -8 in terms of the score.
Yeah. Which again, going back to how I've been brought up in business, Christina, I don't know if you've been the same as this. I'm a big fan of what can be measured can be managed, but we don't just measure things for the sake of it. You look for changes and you look for correlation between, well, why are things going up or down? Why is one department happier than another? What has caused a change of -8 in a certain location, for instance?
Exactly that. It's putting some context behind it.
Yeah.
I think that's really crucial. Actually, we know that there are so many great measures out there already, but it's almost like we're the super measure of all other measures. And somebody said the other day, we're always like the missing jigsaw piece, which is like the prequel to all of this data that comes out the other end. And if you're able to measure, if I had 10 stores and I wasn't able to visit them all myself, but I'm relying on the store manager, I would want to know what the difference is between Southampton and Swindon, because that's obviously going to impact sales, productivity, performance. And without putting any pressure on the individual, if they just have the ability to speak up, then simple changes can be made to bring that back up again. And that's where you're able to measure, the delivery of people within your organization.
Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, we can look at it in terms of location, so any physical location, but then also in terms of circles. So that's any team within an organization. So as you can see, we have finance, IT department, marketing. And again, we can do exactly the same, start to rank these in any of the headings here. And then again, we can go down even further and look at it in terms of individuals. And we can narrow these individuals down, and we can look at any individual within the location of Cardiff. And we can start to rank individuals based on their mood score, based on their change from the previous time period. So we'd maybe want to maybe engage in a conversation with Victor, considering he's had a -35 score change based on the previous time period.
How would you address, and Christina, maybe I'll turn to you on this one, how would you address uptake of this? So it's all well and good, I talked about this has been life-changing for me. I love it. It's made me much more mindful of the moods. But dare I say, I'm quite turned on to these types of technologies and quite mindful of mental health and things. What about people who are either, dare I say, sticking their head in the sand, or say, look, I don't want to do this because if I give a negative, if I give a not okay, you'll punish me for it, or I need to be seen to be okay. All of those types of scenarios. So have you thought about like uptake within organizations?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most crucial point, really, Richard, is that it's got to be the technology is only as useful as the person using it and the understanding behind it. And I think that's where, we had a lot of publicity back in January for this, which is that this isn't bossware. This isn't an organization saying you will use this and I will see just how much work you're doing. This is all about the stuff you don't see and the things that you don't feel, because it's only the person feeling it. If an FD turns around to somebody who's been introduced to Moodbeam and says, well, what's this going to do? If you turn around and say for, a couple of pounds per user per month, you're actually going to save yourself, thousands, maybe millions annually on people who have perhaps come to the job, not realizing, what exactly is involved, perhaps not very happy about it, maybe haven't bedded into the culture, and within 6 weeks they leave again. You've got that lost person, but you've also got a drain on the finances, and equally in terms of retention and absenteeism and long-term sickness. Majority of the times there's something there that hasn't maybe been measured in a human way. And I would turn around to them and say, look, and we have said to organizations, I think you've got a bit of work to do with your culture, to be honest, because if you have such mistrust, this isn't the technology for you. You need to go back and you need to sort of find out why your people don't trust you, or why they think that you're watching them, at work. And it's only really going to work for those organizations who already get this, understand why it'll be useful to them, not just in a financial way, but also in a company that people are going to want to work for and stay with. And where we're going with this with Moodbeam is that we now start work with organizations who we call our sort of our ambassador organizations. So those people who have been probably talking about this forever, trying to bring mental health into the workplace health without the stigma, and those who really understand that if you get the best out of your people, your company thrives. So where we're going with this is a bit of an industry benchmark. We're all about a measure of happiness. And if you're able to have a Moodbeam score on your website or, on Glassdoor or whatever it is that shows that you are a good employer, you do care about your people, and the reason that you can say that is because your people have fed through to you on a daily basis in real time. Then you have that real time appreciation as well, and other organizations will want to have you as a client and vice versa. But it is so important that people understand that when they're looking at this data, this is all done with consent. There's no smoke and mirrors here. We have a data protection policy that's as big as War and Peace. We have a data protection officer. We also have the ability now with the new launch of the direct entry app in the dashboard. They also have the ability to onboard and read all of that privacy and understand it for yourself and feel reassured. And anybody whose name is in a circle or in a location, they are aware that this is being used to give them a voice, not to reprimand them. Yeah. And I think that's the crucial difference, is that we've only really heard about technology that's spyware, bossware, under the cosh. And those aren't the sort of organizations we want to be working with. We want to be working with the flagships who see that this measure could well create a whole new dynamic for them when it comes to building relationships with other people as well as their own.
Makes absolute sense. And I love the idea of future. I work with companies who help IT companies to measure their customer satisfaction, net promoter score, and they put these sort of things on the website. Hey, look how good we are for you, the customer. What about a score on the website that says, hey, look how good we are for our internal staff as well? So I really get behind that. Sam, quick question regarding something Christina touched on, security. And forgive me if we're jumping about all over. One of my first questions as an IT person here would be, there's a lot of information available to people here. How can we make sure this is being kept secure? And is there sort of granularity of access, for managers and other people within the organization?
Yeah, it's a great question on the security side of things. So the data is all fully encrypted on servers stored in the UK. And we've done that because we've been working with certain clients that it was necessary to store the data within the UK servers. And we work with some third parties, including Amazon Web Services and Google Analytics, which allow us that our platform's built on those two kind of systems, and allows us to do the interrogation of the data. But it is purely based on our systems, and we pull in the data from those servers. Now, logins to the dashboard are all password protected, and we have a main admin user account, which an organization would have access to. And then they can create sub-accounts or what we call location managers.
Got it.
And that would allow, in theory, a store manager of a supermarket to access their store's data. And only access their store's data, and not all data in the database.
Makes sense.
So it's fully secured and encrypted by password.
So we've got this data going into the system. How can we? You've explained a couple of ways of how we can look at it. Is there any other ways that we can look at the data to get an idea of what's going on? Yeah.
So we can draw reports. And again, what came back from some feedback was the ability to download PDF reports.
Brilliant.
So that can now download a simple PDF report that's fully anonymized for any location on Circle, and that can be filtered into a board pack, into a monthly team meeting, and therefore gives a KPI to compare month on month data. Again, we have the ability to look at it on terms of a calendar view. So very simply, we can see which days in the month are good days, which days are bad days. Again, daily trends in terms of timings. Some more insights, and then actually start to look at the data then in terms of physical presses, in terms of positive or negative. And again, which locations, which circles, and then which people contribute the most to the negatives. And that can all be downloaded, as I say, into a PDF report, and we can go back to any month and forever how long the business has been using and the dashboard, and again download the reports and function from there. And that's as simple as it is It's easy to get data out of it. It's easy to analyze the data, and hopefully easy to make some positive changes within the business.
Yeah, looks very cool indeed. Christina, I think it was 2 years ago that you and I caught up face to face in Las Vegas at CES, which makes our life sound, and Sam as well, makes us sound as though we're always flying around the world doing things. You and I, not so much, but it feels like a world away now with the COVID-19 pandemic. But I genuinely think there's never been a more important time for technology like Moodbeam, and the link between technology, mindfulness, happiness, and everything else that goes along with it. And that, what can we expect next? Or if anybody watching this is interested and say, that looks very interesting, I want to find out more, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Okay, yeah, I think it's we're all about conversations, as you know, Richard. We're all about building relationships. Success for us is to get talking to the right people in the right organizations who do care about each other, who do understand that we probably would still be like years away in terms of understanding how important mental health is and workplace health. And if we didn't have the pandemic, we'd still be in that place. And I think for those who really value this added metric, if you like, that can very easily weave into everyday work health, they can just drop us a line at hello@moodbeam.co.uk, visit the website at moodbeam.co.uk or moodbeam.com, visit us on social media at Moodbeam Life. But first and foremost, just really bring those questions to us, because if we've never presumed to know what we're talking about. We just wanted to create a technology that would latch on to everything else out there, and really just get those relationships started. And what's really nice, and I think testament to how we've gone about this, because there's a lot of noise in this space now and everybody's thinking, oh, what a great idea. But because we've been at this 6 years, we're now having those conversations again that we had 18 months ago, 3 years ago, when organizations weren't ready, or when people were using it for their personal use, but suddenly see why it would be useful for their people. And we can never have enough of those, quite frankly, because if we do it together in tandem, then there's strength in those numbers. And the naysayers who say, look, we don't need something like this right now, will soon realize that with a bit of education and understanding, it's not to be feared, it's to be embraced. So that would be my message.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, brilliant. Great to see you both, Sam, Christina. I really appreciate you taking the time. And thank you for letting me put you on the spot, Sam especially, and just doing a live demo as opposed to just doing it from me. It's like you between you, me, and the rest of the world now. That's okay. Just an intimate gathering. So really appreciate it. Best of luck with this in the future, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.